Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines. And last time out, we started to build out our commuter town right on the outskirts of the main city of Auridon. And I will come back to a name for it. There's been loads of good suggestions, as always. So keep your suggestions coming in for it if you've got any more. But we will put it out to a poll probably in the next week or so for you guys to vote on a name. But yeah, we built in this town centre, which I think turned out quite nicely, just focusing on the city hall, the shopping centre, and some of the more older historical European assets that we've got going on in here, trying to give a kind of old town centre vibe. So today we are going to start building out the historic suburbs, so we'll leave the modern housing developments for another time, but we're going to be focusing on this area here and this little area for the old historical suburban areas. So what we're going to try and do is use vanilla assets to create a little bit of a sort of more older look, traditional look, and then try and use some more modern buildings for the new developments on the outskirts. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So to start off with, we are just going to clear out all of the trees. So we've got a nice clean palette to work with. So the plan for today is to put some more of the high density European assets along this road here as you come into the town centre, kind of framing that off so that we can kind of get a more of a gradual reduction down in height. And then we'll be using low density assets in here, again just from vanilla game, base game and content creator packs as well, to try and pick out more historical looking buildings. And we'll get them quite packed in close to the town centre and start to spread them out more as we get slightly further to the outskirts of it. Now, Dad, we've got goods issues here, and there's been a couple of you suggested putting in a cargo yard, which we will absolutely come on and do here when we get in our industrial district this side. It's just simply because we're so far away from any industry out here. There's a lot of warnings going on. So that will massively help with these problems that we're seeing at the moment. But at the moment, we've got high demand for residential, so that's what we're going to focus on. So let's just start off with actually placing in some services into this area, because we want to make sure the land values are nice and that they are all covered. So I'm thinking this road here, as it's a kind of main road that goes down into this area of the town, into this sort of other side of the suburb, that this would be a good point for some service buildings. So we've got obviously the hospital in here. I'm thinking opposite it, we should definitely place in a little firehouse. Fits really nicely into that space and actually doesn't really need any detailing around it because we've already got the fence around this one. And we have, of course, already got the large fire station in over this side, so this will just help to spread it out more down this end and hopefully give us pretty decent coverage there. We've also already got a police station in up there, but I'm thinking let's put in a slightly smaller one. And so I think what I will do is actually put it on this corner here. So this will need quite a bit of detailing around it to help it make a bit more sense. If we place it like that for now, and then we'll just need a little bit of surface painter to fill in these holes, get a few police cars out in front of it, create a bit more of a yard behind it, and I think that that will sit in quite nicely again along this road. Now we've got the hospital there, but we are also going to want, I think, a small medical centre or a couple of them. So I think actually I'm going to go over this side for this purposes, and we will drop this in. It's got hedges on it, hasn't it? So we want to make sure that they're nicely aligned. So let's pull it out like that, and I think it sits quite well on the corner there. And then in terms of this area as well, we'll also get in another medical centre. And now just thinking about structure as well, this is kind of the main road that comes down from here and flows into this area. We have also got this back road too, but I'm thinking this would be the most appropriate road for it. So let's again place it on this corner. We'll use a little bit of move it to align it nicely. We've got that hedge nicely against the road, and again a bit more detailing needed to finish off those hedges around it. Otherwise, it's quite a nice little corner asset, I think, there. Now, we will also want to get child healthcare and elder care into here. And now these are not very historical looking buildings. We don't have much options for those. So I think with the elder care, we're going to just plop it down here because we can do some nice detailing for some grounds around it over there. And then with the child health clinic, I'm thinking we'll actually plop it right next to this hospital here. Even though it's quite modern, I mean, the hospital is quite blocky as well. I think that's the most appropriate place for it. And death care, so we have got in a few cemeteries down here, but I think let's just help the people over this side by adding in a crematorium. So let's just do that right next to the medical centre. If we just align it up nicely, we can make sure that that fence is sort of aligned to the edge of the hedge, which helps it blend in just a little bit better, I think. A tiny bit of surface painter and a tiny bit of brush tool just to tidy up the front of that. As always, we will detail up these buildings later on in the detail and time lapse, but for now that gives us fairly decent coverage across all of those. We might want another police or fire station down here, but let's see when it comes to it. So the other service that we do want to look at is schools, and we're going to want a couple of high schools potentially, and definitely quite a few elementary schools. Now, one of the high school complexes that I'd like to do is actually in this space here. Now, it's a relatively tight squeeze, but we can absolutely make this work. So I'm going to plop in 2 of these European high schools, and we're going to hold Alt, and we're going to turn one literally round the other way. And what we're going to do is put these in back to back, because I think this works quite nicely. So we just need to be a little bit careful of the hedges interlinking and the fences here on the pathway. But in general, I think that that is okay. This little outhouse doesn't have any doors on it, so it's not too bad. But then what it gives us is quite a nice sort of middle to it. Now, I would start bobbing off a lot of these hedges and making it a bit more unique. However, we've obviously used this asset elsewhere in Auridon, so I'm a little bit reluctant to start changing it up too much at this stage. We can actually just pull this one forward a little bit, make sure we're not clipping onto the nice tables and chairs there. And let's move that up so it's sort of aligned to the end of it. And we can tidy up these hedges with a bit of detailing as well, make them join up. Same goes for round here. But all in all, I don't think it looks too bad like this. There's quite a few lampposts, so it might look a bit busy, but we'll see when we come to it. Now, of course, we will need to add road access to this one. So let's go ahead and grab our usual concrete road, and we'll just bring a small section out like that. And then I think really to finish this off, a football field would be nice. So let's grab in this one. And what you can see as well is we've got car parking spaces here, and these ones are quite nicely aligned to this road. Do need to be a little bit careful about where this node sits so that people aren't driving over the football field as well. But we can definitely do a bit of detailing to add a few more car parking spaces in down here and make it feel like a bit of a car park area for the high school. Let's just drag that over just a little bit. But make sure we're not clipping onto this pavement here because we don't want people walking through the signs that side. And then we could just use a little bit of node controller to shift over this red node here. So we do want to just go this way ever so slightly. Yeah, so that road is now nice and straight out of there. And in fact, we could just set them a little bit so we get a nice smooth curve into. And of course, lots of detailing needed around this to get rid of these like odd ruined textures. Just help detail it up and make it look a little bit more realistic there. I think opposite the elder care, maybe that placement isn't fantastic, but we can see later on if we want to move it. Of course, we need elementary education as well. And I'm not a huge fan of this elementary school, and it also doesn't need any detailing, which is probably why I don't use it very often, because it just sort of sits in by itself. Not got a great playground or anything. So I think actually here what we will do is kind of a modern addition to our high school area with the community school. So let's place this in, and again we've got this nice playground on the front, so we can do a bit of detailing with that. So I think we'll actually place it in here. Then we can get a little bit of brush tool just to extend out the entranceway. Oh, that looks slightly odd, so we want to extend it a little bit further so it looks nice and straight there. And of course, lots of detailing around here to make a really nice big playground for that school. Potentially a little car park in there as well. Now I'm thinking another high school will probably go up here by the low wealth area, which we'll do when we come to do that area. So this high school can probably cover off all of these districts. I'd say, I mean, they've got 2 in there anyway, so that's probably enough. But we're definitely going to want more elementary education as well. So let's go ahead and drop in a couple more of these. Now, just thinking about location of it, obviously we'll have houses here. We've got the medical clinic here. We could actually go ahead and put it behind the medical clinic and turn this into a little commercial block here with local shops and the such like for the residents to visit. So if we place that in there, yeah, we just need a little bit of detailing here to make those hedges line up. So we can just go into find it, find our hedge. And what we'll do is just place this in here, try and line it up as best we can to those other hedges that are already there. This is where I start to take ages with the detailing. And there we go. That helps to square it off. And then let's do the same thing this side as well. Let's finish off that medical centre garden, and that does not look straight at all to me, so let's fix that. That's a bit better there. That helps to just frame off those segments. We could probably do actually a nice bespoke playground next to it, maybe a bit of concreted playground, which we don't do very often actually, so we will do that with a bit of detailing. Okay, so just did a little bit of detailing around the schools, filled this in with nice older patterns around the football field, which I thought looked quite cute. Obviously come in and extended, as always, the community school playground, added a bit of a kind of nature area with a couple of the tables that they use in the school itself round the trees back here, a couple more playground assets and a basketball court that sits quite nicely in the corner here. And of course a little car park at the back as well. And then just a little bit of detailing around the high school, added in a few extra bits of fence and little bits of hedge to make some of this make a little bit more sense and make it feel a bit more like an enclosed area. Detailed up this bit so it looks like a nice walk through with the car parking spaces there. And then a few more car parking spaces along the edge here too. And then over here we have just detailed in this little commercial square here with a couple of local shops, a little bit of fused action, although I've realised I do need to reset these buildings so that we get the same colour roof. There we go, that's better. Fenced in tree pattern area in the middle here, and then actually I think the best playground I've ever done. I decided to use some tyres and some little wooden tree stumps here to create some different areas, brought in a couple of the amusement park assets, but I really like how this has turned out with the little gates and stuff as well. This obviously won't be functional, which is really disappointing, and I really hope in future versions of Cities Skylines they make props functional, because that would just be the best thing ever. But I absolutely love how this playground's turned out. These little bits of ploppable gravel here as well to mark where the climbing frames are going. Yeah, really, really pleased with that. And particularly these tree stumps, yes. Okay, so the next thing I want to touch on is parks. So obviously we do have a basketball court now in over here and a football field and the playground that won't function as a playground. So we do need some actual parks in here to make people happy. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to turn these areas actually, so this being one of them, into actual park areas. And then we can detail these up in the detailing time lapse. So let's just go ahead and mark out where we want it for now. And we'll make this into a nice, large, sort of natural city park over this side. We've obviously got this little park in there too. And then this section here will be another park with this road running through the middle. And I will as well go round and upgrade a lot of the roads to tree-lined roads. Because I know a couple of you mentioned in the city centre it felt pretty bare from trees. We'll get rid of all those warning signs for a second. Which, yeah, it is, you know, for Auridon, yes, but I want to upgrade some of these pedestrian roads and some of the other roads to grass-lined and tree-lined, and that will help it feel a little bit more green and a little bit more like Auridon, I think. So we will come on to that in the detailing time-lapse as well. But for now, I think having a big park here and a big park here with this little one here is probably plenty. We may want to add in a dog park or a playground or something over this area, potentially something in the middle here too, but we'll just do a ploppable one for those rather than big park areas. So again, we'll come on to build those, I think, in the detailing time-lapse. But next up, I do want to concentrate on the buildings that we are going to use. So as mentioned, we're going to do a bit more high-density European assets along this top end here. We just have a little look at the available options for that. I'm thinking what we're going to do is a load of row houses. So potentially some of these. I'm thinking maybe the slightly neater looking one. Which one is it? This one? Yeah, so we've got this one. I don't know what the difference is actually between those two. Okay, they've got roof. Yeah, I'm not so keen on that. That feels a bit more modern with the solar panels as well. Probably better for the environment, but I think we'll go ahead and use that. And what we'll do is a slightly varied pattern, mixing up these, which are a similar height, with these block houses. And then what that means is, because if we put these in next to each other, you'll see all these windows like virtually looking out onto each other. So I don't really like how that looks around the back. So I think that this is a better option for providing a little bit more of a kind of normal back to it. And this then backs right onto the hospital, so we may want to do a little bit of adjusting to that, but we can do some really nice detailing out the back here, bringing out a car parking road, I think, so car parking lot road. We could do the two-sided one here actually, there is enough space for it. So if we drag that all out behind these houses, let's just grab these nodes here and pull them down just a little bit. We'll hold Alt for this, make sure we won't because it jumps around a little bit. Let's make sure we get those in nicely there. Now we do have car parking spaces in the back of these as well that we want to be mindful of. So what I'll probably do is leave gaps in the car parking spaces so that people can essentially drive into those sections. So like here, for example, if we start these spaces here, we can then leave a gap that side so that they're not immediately blocking those spaces that we already have in. And then we'll use our smaller lot just to fill in some of these gaps here. And that is better, yeah, so you can see they can get into those sections there. So we'll carry on this kind of theme along this main road here and build in a bit more high density. But then behind that, I'm thinking we've got slim choice in terms of assets, to be honest, on low density in terms of trying to get a bit of a historical look. So what I'm thinking is I'm probably going to use the college assets for this. These houses in particular feel like they are a little bit older. So I think we'll definitely use a few of these and try and get them in really tightly as well, I would add, so it feels a bit more dense. And then as we go further away from the main town centre, we'll start to space the housing out a little bit more so it feels, yeah, less like a inner city housing complex. Then these ones are also good, slightly taller. We want the two-storey buildings certainly for this, but they do have a kind of old town feel to them, which I quite like. So yeah, we'll place in some of these. And what we want to make sure with these as well is there's different sizes of them, but we want to make sure that they are aligned to each other so we're getting nice consistent kind of fronts to our road. That one's slightly bigger there. In fact, we could have two of those on the end there. And then what we'll need to do is just put a bit of hedging, a bit of fencing around the back there to block off their driveways. That's really what we want to see up next to the high street. And then, yeah, as we go further away, we'll start to transition into more single-storey buildings from this content creator pack. And potentially some European suburbia in here as well, because some of these do look reasonably old. I mean, not that one. But some of the other ones. We've got houses like this as well, which look a little bit nicer, which I think we'll start to place further away from the town centre. There's going to be an awful lot of plopping to get these houses into all of these spaces. So I'm not going to do that all on camera. I will save you the pain of it. And we'll do it as part of the detail and time lapse. Then the other thing that I do want to just touch on is local shops. Now, I actually do, and I didn't think about this before, really want to place my favourite asset, which is the garage. The Shell garage by Sven Berlin. Absolutely one of my favourite assets in the whole game, and I think what we will do is place it on this corner. Let's centralise it nicely, and then actually let's just go to here, let's type in Shell. We can use our nice big Shell sign on this corner next to the supermarket sign, which I think will look nice there. And then we do just want to come in with a little bit of brush tool here to extend the concrete out to the pavement this way. I think we'll put in some planters along here as well. Somewhat like this side, so it sort of blends in a little bit better onto that corner. So thinking something like these, or the block hedges would be nice. We want to make sure we're not going onto the pavement. Yeah, I think we'll add these in like this. Because the road is slightly curved, we'll go like that. So it kind of indicates that they need to go in and round this side and out of the garage from this road as opposed to the main road there. And then I do want to add in a few more local shops along this road, kind of making so kind of a smaller high street is what I want out of this. So again, if we go back into commercial, the ones that tend to look a little bit, some of these look super modern actually, the University Content Creator Pack ones. There are a few older ones. Like these ones with arches, a bookstore, that would be absolutely appropriate for here. So yeah, let's go ahead and get a few of these in, I think. And actually, before I do that, I do want to touch on post. We definitely want a little local post office around here. And one thing actually, I do like putting these on corners, but I've discovered recently that actually it is quite nice. If we just draw that slightly further away and we put in a path, so let's turn snapping off. We'll just put in a path like that up there, and we'll connect it in by the middle as well, and it gives us quite a nice little island here that we can do a little bit of natural detailing with. So I am thinking let's grab ourselves some roadies for here. We'll somewhat fill in this space with a load of roadies and then a couple of taller trees, and what that does is it still looks like a corner asset but just gives it a little bit more space to breathe. So that's the type of thing that we'll do with the commercial down this street. Space it out a little bit, make it feel a lot less dense than our city centre, which is in absolute dire need of goods. So I think the next episode we will be coming onto that industrial area and our cargo hub for our trains. But I think with that, I will actually just get onto the detailing. So it's going to be a lot of housing plopping, which I won't show all of it to you, but you can see the general process. And then quite a lot of detailing around the houses, around this main collector road here to frame off this little cliff edge. A few more local shops in here, potentially actually another school, I'm thinking. Maybe another elementary school. Might be overkill, but that'd be good. And then, of course, putting in our parks. So I will jump into a time lapse and I will be right back. Okay, so I am actually really happy with how this has turned out overall. I was really doubting actually how these buildings would look as a kind of historical look, but I don't think it's too bad. I think they go all right with this European high density assets that we've got going on here. So yeah, just to run through it, we have added in extra blocks of high density European assets here and kind of extended it out so it's not just such a uniform straight line around this town centre. I tried to give a couple of like interesting different patterns here. Really like how these assets fit together, and they're not as tall as some of the other European high density assets as well. So they sit really nicely in a little block, and although the middle looks a little bit confusing, they do actually have these little archways that you can run through into your own little car park. I mean, it would be a nightmare trying to park in there, but there's not stuff kind of clashing or overlapping, so it feels alright, it feels alright. Yeah, we've just added in a bit of detailing around some of these car parks here, a few little street trees and things like that to smarten up the area. And then as we come out here, I've done these little gardens in the middle here, surrounded by the little logs. I'm getting a bit obsessed with these. I've been playing Planet Zoo and I do a lot of little log path work, and I've now transferred that into Cities Skylines by all accounts. And then up here we've added in a bit more parking next to this back street that we've got going on here. Again, a bit more detailing around the backs of these houses just to make it feel nice and natural and just nicer than it was. Again, street trees all over the place to try and decorate that up. And we have now added trees along this road as well. And also going into the town centre, I have changed up some of the roads, which I'd meant to do last time and just completely forgot. And added in more trees here, the pedestrian area as well, changed that to tree line road. So it feels a little bit more Auridon-like, a little bit more green around the town centre here, which I like. Then coming on over here, we've just finished off the back of these European houses here with a bit of hedge and tree patterns, a few benches in there, and this nice tiling walkway through into the main town centre here. Again, over here we've just done these blocks of residential, the few car parks at the back, and actually squeezed in a park plaza here, which fits in actually quite nicely as a sort of walk through into the suburb out this side. Again, filled in some other little spaces with just some community gardens like this with some benches and plants and yeah, just nice open green spaces. Then in the suburbs, we've come in and tidied up all the corners with a bit of hedge work. So like here, for example, just make it feel a little bit nicer, I think, rather than just having an open random corner. Done quite a bit of that around all of the suburbs. Added in a little park over here as well, just using the playground and then fencing it in, sending it out with a bit of trees and such like over here. And yeah, that was pretty much it on this side of the town. And then coming over here, we have added in another school. I've extended it out with a mini football field, a little bit of a nature area at the back here and a few more benches around, a small car park and a walkway through onto the main road this side. Again, much the same in terms of the hedge detailing, just adding hedges where it makes sense to do that, to define some of the gardens and make it like a nicer view from along the road, a little bit more realistic than just houses next to each other. Particularly as this has a bit of a British vibe, I think. So yeah, you can see that all the way up here. And then for the police yard, I've just added in a little backyard to it with the extra car parking spaces that people can use, and then some just vanilla fake car parking spaces that are not usable but with our prop police cars, which I think works quite well for this, sitting on this corner here. And then for the elder care as well, we've extended out the back of it, just with a few pergolas and benches, a couple of deck chairs and the such like here, extended out the tiling pattern out of the back of it to join up this side and here. A few more tables and yeah, just made it like quite a nice little community space, I think, around the back of that. And then coming on to the city park, it's pretty basic, to be honest. Used a bit of node control on the paths to get some nice pathing patterns in here. Tried to keep a few little bits of open space. Framed this side of it with obviously the chess table being the centerpiece here. Then as we come across the road, oh, do you know what? I need to add in a crossing here. That's what I'd meant to do. So yeah, on this node, we'll change this to a crossing using node controller, and that'll do nicely. It's not perfectly aligned with the gates. Let's see if we can move that. Not like that. We just pull this up just a tiny bit. That should be all right. And then we go back into node controller now. We should be able to change that to a crossing, which lines up a little bit better. There we go. Then yeah, coming across here, we've got this really big open space to the back of the plaza and the information booth there. We've got this nice little area here, and you know what, again, let's just use Bob on this. We've got the zoo sign there, but on all of these zoo cafes, we have turned down the probability on the zoo sign. So if I just go into move it now and reset it a couple of times, we should get a version without the zoo side. So it makes a bit more sense for a city park like this. Obviously the trampoline park here as well I thought was quite a nice touch next to the extended cafe. A couple of little playgrounds and gazebos knocking about, a little bit of natural detailing around it, but very, very basic for a city park. I haven't gone OTT here. Tried to leave, yeah, this nice big open green space. And then just up here we have added in a little bit of a high street here, just a few low density commercial shops. And again, we're just getting so many goods issues up here, we're not getting the goods. So next episode we will come in and sort out the industrial area for here. I did actually, you'll notice, plop in a little bit of industry in a warehouse, which has not fixed it whatsoever. So we massively need to come and sort that out with our train yards and our cargo access here to get cargo into this area and sort out those issues next time. But I think for a nice little historical suburb, a little bit more high density, merging out into this low density, older looking buildings is what I've tried to go for here. I think it's turned out okay. So for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are all really, really appreciated. Still let me know your suggestions for the name of this area or the names of the parks within it as well. And we will give them a name on a future episode. But for now, that is it. Stay tuned for the cinematics and I will catch you again next time. Bye bye.